made by the Traffic and Parking Commission, you may appeal the decision by filing a writ associated with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. Do we have a motion on the approval of today's agenda? Well, hold tight. Before we do that, the consent items that we need to relocate, we'll do it down at the consent. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve today's agenda? We have a second. It's been first and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? It is passed. 3.0, approval of the meeting minutes from April 14th, 2025's meeting.
Move to approve.
It's been first. Do we have a second? Second. It's been first and second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is passed. We did not have anybody sign up for public comment. Before we move into the approval of the consent agenda, I wanted to welcome our newest commissioner, Captain Williams. Appreciate you joining the commission and looking forward to working with you. All right, so no public comment. 5.0, approval of the consent agenda. 5.1, mandatory referral 2025 M001AB-001 to abandon a portion of an unnumbered and unimproved alley right away between Alley 169 and First Avenue South, requested by property owners. Item 5.2, mandatory referral of 2025 M-002AB-001 to abandon a portion of an unnumbered and unimproved alley right-of-way between Alley 148 and 2nd Avenue South, requested by property owners. 5.3, mandatory referral of 2025 M-003AB-001 to abandon a portion of Union Bridge Road right-of-way between Pascal Road and newly aligned Union Bridge Road, requested by property owners. 5.4, authorization for new multi-way stop control for 40th Avenue North and Albion Street, requested by NDOT. Item 5.5, approval of change in existing valet hours to 4:30 p.m. to midnight at 909 20th Avenue South, requested by NDOT. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Requested by valet operator. With existing pay parking extended to all other permissible times, requested by NDOT. And item 5.6, approval of new bus parking 24/7 on both sides of Odom Street East and west of First Avenue North, replacing the existing no parking on events, requested by NDOT. Item 5.5, we're going to move to regular agenda. It has been requested by NDOT that this be deferred indefinitely. So are there any other items that any other commissioners would like to pull out and discuss? If not, do we have a motion of approval of the consent agenda? We have a second.
Second.
It's been first and second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda has been approved. Item 6.0, so we'll jump into 5.5, approval of change in existing valet hours to 4:30 p.m. to midnight at 909 20th Avenue South, requested by valet operator, with existing pay parking extended to all other permissible times, requested by NDOT. Do we have a motion to defer this item indefinitely?
I'll make a motion to defer.
Second?
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5.5 has been passed to be deferred indefinitely. Item 7.0, unfinished business. 7.1, authorization for new pedestrian hybrid beacon at 2400 Clarksville Pike, requested by NDOT.
Mr. Chairman, could you move that item to the end of business today? Mr. Hagerty wishes to speak on that, but he's tied up in another meeting at the moment.
Absolutely. So we will bring that back up after 2 and 3. So we'll move on to item 7.2, approval for downtown temporary service business permits for loading and unloading zones, requested by NDOT. Mr. Schultz, you have the floor. Please state your name for the record, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Chair. Brent Schultz, and I'm a Connect Downtown Coordinator, and I sure appreciate my time here with you. As you know, we were here at the last meeting on the downtown temporary service business process that we're trying to get set up. Let me take you through the PowerPoint here, if you could go to the first slide on that. So the purpose of the DTSB permit is to grant additional time for service business to obtain needed services. It's really a very simple permit process. It's $100. We issue it to the merchant or the property owner, business owner, and they get 2 placards to give to their service companies when they come out anywhere in that downtown area there west of the Cumberland and on that map to the interstate system. Thank you. One thing I want to point out, we had questions last time about this. It's not for residential properties because they have loading and unloading areas. This is for the commercial businesses in the downtown area. It is not for our police department to enforce this program. It is for our NDOT enforcement to enforce the program. We think it's going to work great. I've had a lot of meetings with stakeholders in the downtown about this issue. It's going to also help our enforcement staff because they're going to be able to easily see when we issue these permits, they're going to easily see these placards on the dashboard, and they'll know they get 2 hours in the loading zone, and therefore, they don't have to write tickets. Currently, the current standard is 30 minutes. This will give them 2 hours. This is under our director's new authority to give additional time for these types of operations in the loading zone. Diana has the ability to give more time. We're going to start with 2 hours. We're going to watch this. Now, one thing about this program, it is temporary. We see this over the long term phasing out as we phase in smart loading zone programs. As you know, we've been working on one. Hopefully soon it'll be before you. And as it gets going over time, that program will take over because it's a camera license plate reading system, which will be able to tell who's there and who shouldn't be there and can give us all that data. So that's just a little bit of an overview on it. You've got the map there. Again, the placards will be watermarked. We're going to be numbering them. Our sign shop will make them. I'll be overseeing the permit process, getting that going with our staff to make sure, we're properly giving permits that are going out to the companies that are actually in the downtown area. There is a process we've set up there with the attorneys. Eric and Flinda's helped me with it too. If someone's permit gets revoked, what is that process? It ultimately will come to you all if it's necessary. Hopefully we won't see that that's necessary. So, and one other thing is, we're going to watch this program carefully, our enforcement staff and myself, and we do have the ability to change the time on it, but we'll report those changes back to you and as it should come back to you. And obviously I'm happy to come back anytime on any of these programs to give you all an update on them and just to give you an update on their performance and how are they doing. I think that maybe did I miss anything, Erica? I don't know. I may have. But anyway, I appreciate the time, and I'm here to answer any question. I'm asking for your approval for this program so we can get it going. Just really quickly, what would happen if it got approved? May, June, we'd start activating our website so that I can point people, companies that want this permit to it. Setting up the permitting system, setting up the process to review and approve or deny those permit applications. We're going to have to do education outreach to everybody and then implement, I'm thinking June timeframe. So with that, I am here to answer any questions.
Appreciate that. Any questions from commissioners? Yes,
You want to go first? Thank you, Chair.
no problem.
I do have a series of questions.
Sure.
Mr. Schultz. Thank you, first of all. I commend NDOT's innovative spirit and solution-based to make improvements in the downtown core. Very much, I think very much needed. I do have a few questions that pertain from some of the questions that we raised at the last meeting. I'm not sure that they were addressed in the materials provided today, which we also do appreciate. Obviously, you all have spent a lot of time working through the nuts and bolts of this new program. So here are a few of my questions. The first is, you indicated that this would not pertain to loading zones that currently have existing docks.
Correct.
So just kind of like ballpark, how many loading zones without docks exist within this footprint?
I'd have to get that for you. I'd have to do the research on that number. It's a very large area. That would take me some time to get that.
Okay, I'm
for
just
you.
trying to understand the scope of how many areas would be impacted and thereby not available for day-to-day loading and unloading for other passengers, et cetera. Another question that I believe we raised last month, and I didn't see it in here, although it may be, and that is, do you all have some guidance in terms of what is your threshold? In other words, what is your cap on the number of permits that you would extend in any given period of time?
My take on that would be capped by the number of businesses down there who do not have a loading dock currently. And
So it could be
So-
all.
no, well, if there's loading docks there, they can't get the
Right.
service permit.
Right, but those without loading docks, essentially, NDOT could
Yes.
be granting these permits to every loading zone within the footprint, minus those with docks.
Yes, if they can show they are needed to provide HVAC, electrical servicing.
Okay. Two more questions, if I may, Chair. The next is related to the descriptor of service business permit. The use is described here as providing services but not limited to electrical, plumbing, HVAC, audio, beer tap systems, et cetera. My recollection is from the last meeting, you did describe the services would not include day-to-day food and beverage delivery or any delivery of trucks. Yet in the photo that you provided in your PowerPoint, it shows a Coca-Cola truck, obviously trying to make a delivery. So I think we need some
I just thought that
real
was
clarity around
I-
we understood, as
Oh,
you
I'm sorry.
noted last meeting, that this would not pertain to day-to-day truck deliveries.
It isn't. It's not for deliveries. It's just for service businesses in the downtown area. So it's not for deliveries.
Okay.
We do have
we need to state that in the descriptor here?
We
we
can
could
add some.
for clarification.
Yeah.
I will just let you know that NDOT is considering another permit for delivery and commercial services within the smart loading zone area. That program has not been ready to submit for your consideration yet, but there will be a separate permit program for delivery businesses. And they will, of course, still be able to use the loading zones until that program has passed or has been submitted for your approval, but they'll be limited to the 30-minute time period as of now. Is that correct?
No, the current timing for service companies is 30 minutes in the loading zone to provide services. But we're changing it from 30 minutes to 2 hours for service companies.
Right.
But on what she's talking about, the smart loading zone program, we're proposing it be up the same amount of time, 2 hours for delivery, and adding delivery companies to it. So it'd be service and delivery companies.
I understand what you were saying.
Okay, thank you.
I would suggest we
sorry.
may still want to just put a qualifier
We
in
can
here that the temporary
We'd be happy to do
does
that.
not. Okay, now here's my last question. And it has to do with the use as described. Once a loading zone switches from a 30-minute period of time to a 2-hour period of time, does that warrant a material change in the use? Thereby, is it still technically considered a loading zone when it's being used for 2 hours?
Yeah.
So under Metro Code, section 1248, let me just pull it back up, 1248.025, that's the curb loading zone management program. And under that program, the purpose of the program, under that code section, the purpose of the program is to increase availability and efficiency of curb loading zones and reduce double parking by loading vehicles. The curb loading zone management program may include continuing to treat some curb loading zones as they have always been treated, while identifying some specially designated curb loading zones to be subjected to special curb management regulations and acted pursuant to this section. For example, allowing those specially designated curb loading zones to be limited to the exclusive use of some users upon certain conditions being met, such as the payment of additional fees by the users. And then the section provides that the Director of Public Works, which is now NDOT, shall submit rules for this program to the Traffic and Parking Commission for approval. And that's what these rules are, for the downtown temporary service business permit. And the rules may include establishing loading zone usage permits and fees, determining minimum curb loading zone space requirements, providing for enhanced enforcement, which may include the following: dedicated enforcement personnel, improved signage, and automated enforcement. Then the next subsection is determining eligibility for use of curb loading zones or specially designated curb loading zones, providing for methods of payment of required fees, and establishing requirements for monitoring the loading zone performance and adjusting usage rates, loading zone space requirements, and enforcement to improve performance. So these rules and combined with the director's authority to extend the time limits as she sees fit under her discretion, that allows for the change in the use of the loading zone, if that makes sense. And the director's authority is under 1248.030, which is standing and passenger curb loading zone, and 1248.050, which is freight loading zones. Did I answer your question?
Is the 30-minute in the code now?
No.
Or is,
No, it's
Okay.
not. It's not. And sorry.
Thank you, Erica.
You're welcome.
I understand all that relative to the use. Certainly, the use is, the code does allow for the use.
Yes.
My question was more the duration of time. And, a loading zone by nature of a loading zone is deemed to be a short period of time. Once we go to 2 hours, does that use change from a loading zone to something else?
I would have to look that up. I think under the, I'm looking at,
Particularly if we're talking about potentially using every loading zone there is within the footprint.
There is not a definition that I'm seeing in chapter 12.04, which is where you find the definitions for 1248, for chapter 12. So if you're asking if the time is the determination of whether something is a loading zone or whether it kind of gets kicked out of that definition, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
I don't think that the time that you are allotted or that we say that you can use a zone or not determines whether it's like a loading zone or a parking zone or whatever. Does that make sense? I see your question. I think you're saying like if it's 2 hours, it's actually a loading zone because it doesn't sound like loading. It sounds more like parking. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. We'll look at that. My gut is that no, but we'll look at the definitions and see what we come up with.
Thank you.
did we set a 30-minute limit at some point?
I think it was initially 30 minutes, and then after talking to stakeholders, it was requested to be a little longer, right?
Yeah, so my name is Emmanuel Matias, I'm with NDOT as well. Just to answer the question real quick, there was a recent revision of 1248-030 and 1248-050. They both have 3 minutes for passenger zones and 30 minutes for loading zones, for freight loading zones, mentioned in the previous code revision. The most recent one amended those, so now the authority lays on the department to set those times. But the standard for us, even with internal policies, passenger loading zone is 3, buses are 15, freight is 30 minutes for anything outside of the permit.
And there's nothing currently for service.
No.
But you've been, Emmy, stay here for a second, but you've been writing tickets for people staying in the loading zone over 30 minutes, correct? Service companies, because I got calls,
That is correct.
yes. And that's why we did this, so that we can give more time to the service companies in the loading zone to get in and out of there and do their service business you can imagine with the volume of people we have in these companies downtown, they need to have the loading zone curb to get in there and do their work and get out. They're doing it now.
Other question?
Yeah, do we have that published somewhere?
I'm sorry?
The 30-minute,
Chair, may I? Mr. Matthias just refreshed my recollection. The prior code section 1248-030 used to say 30 minutes was the maximum time in a loading zone. Sometime last year, that code section, along with 1248-050, was amended, and I can read it to you. It's, this is 1248-030. No person shall stop, stand, or park a vehicle for any purpose or period of time other than for the expeditious loading or unloading of passengers in any place marked as a passenger curb loading zone during hours when the regulations applicable to such curb loading zones are effective, and then only for a period not to exceed an amount of time determined by the Director of the Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure or his or her designee to be appropriate based on the Director's or the designee's professional traffic engineering judgment and investigation. Any time limits for passenger curb loading zones that are set by the NDOT Director or her designee shall be clearly marked and posted on signs within said zones. So at one point, there was a 30-minute maximum, and now it's within her discretion. And those changes, I believe, were made in anticipation of the Connect Downtown implementation.
If I could also add something to what you said, we've specified in the permit process, Emmy and I, that they should park at the ends of the zone. We don't want them obstructing the middle part of it so that deliveries can still happen there.
Commissioner Holler, did you have any other questions?
I have one more, if I may.
Yes.
Okay. And I believe we addressed this also at the last meeting, but in the designation of a loading zone, by nature of its purpose, it does serve multiple businesses, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so how will NDOT determine if there's 5 businesses that use that loading zone, which of the 5 will be issued the permit? And how will you make that designation?
You mean, how will I determine, and Emmy, who gets the permit and who doesn't?
Yes, so let's say all 5 apply, but
they-
there's only one loading zone that they share. So how do we determine who gets what?
Well, it's going to be, first come, first serve. We only have, as you know, we have limited loading zone space throughout the downtown area. So it's going to be, whoever gets there first. Because deliveries are easier. I can tell you, we kind of know when people roll in and roll out of Broadway Street or the other streets north and south of downtown. Service companies, you don't know when an HVAC system's going to break, when an electrical system's going to fault out. It could be late at night. They could be there at 2 a.m. in the morning and we don't even know. We don't even see them.
Right,
But-
that's kind of.
But looking at the permits, it's going to be Emmy and I and others looking at them, making sure these service companies are providing services, and they have contracts with those companies before we give a permit with 2 placards to each business. I really don't see it as a problem. You know, we can stop the program if it becomes a problem, but right now, they're just going wherever. There's nothing to control them, other than hopefully our enforcement staff that's spread pretty thin across the county and across the city to enforce it. This will give them now an ability to go by with their equipment that's on their cars, tag the car that it's there, or vehicle. They'll see them on the ends. They'll be able to see those placards. We'll know they should be there, that they have the permit. We'll have a good inventory of who these companies are that are coming to the downtown so we can track them. So I don't see that it's going to be a problem. I don't think it's going to obstruct. I think it's going to help our enforcement tremendously because they can quickly see the placard. I think too, it's going to help the business. I know from the business, I've talked to the business people, they want this.
I understand that,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't disagree at all. My
Yeah.
question was related to how is NDOT going to determine, so we have 5 businesses that share one loading zone, all 5 submit.
Mm-hmm.
Did I just hear you say that all 5 would receive the placard?
They would qualify for a placard because they may not all have it at the same, well, maybe I'm
Correct.
assuming it wrong.
I understand
Like
there's
that
ebb and flow to
Yeah,
the need.
because there's ebb and flow, not
Brent,
all.
I think it's important to understand that this is a temporary
That's correct.
operation that is intended to work out some of these specific details and kinks in that
That's
there's a situation that 5 businesses operate.
Okay, so
or
they would
use.
all have to apply and pay their $100, but they could all share a loading zone.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay,
That's right.
thank you for the clarification.
And then if there's a situation where all 5 of them's HVAC goes out at once, that's obviously one situation that if it did come up, we'd have to note and figure out how to best utilize that curb and or manage it in the future through this temporary program.
You're
So it's
absolutely
not
right,
one
Chair.
permit per loading zone. It could be multiple permits. Okay.
Chair, may I just explain a little further? Each business, the permit is tied to the business.
Correct.
So each business could apply for the permit. If that business is eligible and meets all the application criteria, that business will be issued, and they pay the $100, that business will be issued a permit. With that permit comes 2 placards. And those placards are the pieces of paper, for lack of a better word, that they'll stick in their windshield.
Right.
They'll give it to the service business that's coming to help them out for whatever need that might arise. And that service business will paste that placard in their car and then park in the loading zone at the end of the loading zone for up to 2 hours. And then the NDOT enforcement can monitor via the permit number and know how long they're supposed to be there.
And then modify as needed if changes or whatnot need to happen.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Cornick.
I'd like to go back to the time limit. Since it says it shall be clearly marked and posted on signs located within said zones, how are we, if it's already marked clearly for 30 minutes, are we going to remark all the signs?
Are you looking at me? That's
My sign expert.
If I just might, I believe the signage states freight loading zone. It doesn't state the 30-minute rule. It just says loading zone.
But there's no.
There's
rule
no
post.
time, there's no time on it, yes.
And NDOT will put signs up as necessary to make sure that the loading zones are clearly marked.
Clearly marked with the time limit.
Yes, you're gonna have to put a time limit if there is a time limit. And also with the smart curb loading zone project,
Yes.
everything is going to change. So that's why this is temporary.
Yes.
But
Because remember, your Connect Downtown plan has those 5 designations at the curb that we're going to have to eventually re-sign all of the downtown area with the flexible curb plan, which you'll see me coming back.
Are you asking about the current Or are you asking about the temp?
I mean, it's both.
Program,
because it is-
right.
Right now, how do you enforce a time limit
Yep.
if it's not clearly marked? And then if we're changing the time limit for certain uses, shouldn't that also be clearly marked so that you can enforce it?
I mean, for the past 2 years, we've been enforcing the same way. And I know the code was stating the half an hour. We could post a policy if that would help, that we have. But also, as it was mentioned, the Connect Downtown initiative and also the smart parking will have its own signage. Specifically, the smart parking loading zones, I believe, will have separate signage that will include all the times and the rates and all that kind of stuff. So that is definitely coming.
So just to better understand the current situation, if I'm a delivery driver, how do I know I only have 30 minutes? That just started last week. Is that the employer's job to, or is that just
We would,
known or?
right, so again, up until I believe February, the second week of February, it was in the code. Currently, we just do more ambassadorship when approaching all the vendors and the contractors, and just tell them that, hey, you have a half an hour, just FYI, it's been 15 minutes, just make sure that you're out of here by,
So
15,
I think
20
an
minutes or so.
alternate bucket to this program is that it'd probably be good to find a better way to notify delivery drivers. I heard a 3-minute, a 15-minute, and a 30-minute that needs to be distributed and or understood. When somebody pulls up, they see that and they know what the rules are. That makes sense?
It does. It does. I understand what you're saying. I was just saying that previously it was also not on the signage while it was in the code. So but I understand what you're saying, and I'm
Yeah.
sure these changes are coming with the Connect Downtown initiative and all these other initiatives that we're working on.
I don't
this
know
year.
what's right or what's wrong, but I feel like if I'm delivering something, I should know how long that's.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah,
I-
I don't
just
feel
so-
comfortable
just so that-
approving this without it being properly signed.
So I think the signage piece is, and help me, Brent, here, the signage piece, whether we do this temporary program or not, is an issue. Or
Yes.
something that needs to be addressed.
Yes, you basically, when you did the Connect Downtown plan, I have the data on how it's all signed now, but there's a flexible curb plan that will expand the curb usage out there. And part of that will be the Smart Loading Zone program. It will expand the use of the curb on Broadway, 3rd and 4th Street for that project. But we need to do it methodically through.
Absolutely, but
downtown.
again, what we're doing in the future, I think is gonna be great for the city with Connect Downtown and everything.
Yeah.
But if somebody's going to work on tomorrow to do a delivery, we need to let them know. Or they need to be able to see a sign. The same way when we park and pull a QR code and our time limit's XYZ based on what we pay, right?
Yep. And the hope is that smart loading is a success and we expand it throughout all the commercial areas downtown. And we have a whole system, a whole permit process. We sign it at that time. I would just tell you, this is going to be a program that I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be out there with Emmy and his team. I don't think we need signs for this it's a temporary program. I think, they have equipment on their cars where we can tag the vehicles and we know if they're there past 2 hours and we can write them citations, we can get them towed. So we have a way to deal with this now. I don't think we need to do the signs right now, but I'd be happy to report back to you regularly on how it's going.
So I think from a reporting standpoint, and I can see it being successful in that somebody get a permit, with that permit, the time limit that you have and operate within that. But somehow, some way, on the flip side of that, outside of this program, we've got to be better at how we're signing loading zones. Any other questions?
So there's a code section for passenger loading zone, there's a code section for freight loading zone, and then there's a code section for the curb loading zone management program, which is a little bit more flexible, and that's what we're using for smart loading when we get there.
Yes.
Are we considering the loading zones that are in place now part of the curb loading zone management program? Do we need to change what the loading zones are to be able to use this? Would that get us better? Because
I don't think we have to change the.
I think
curb
NDOT
loading
has the
zone
discretion to
under the
utilize-
curb management
yeah.
plan.
to utilize it as needed or as you wish within.
Yes, that's correct. They do.
Mr. Commissioner Gibbs.
Two quick questions. What are the hours of operation for NDOT enforcement?
24/7
Okay.
is what I just heard them say.
I'd just like to make sure that the police department is aware of this ordinance and if need be, because you've already stated that you're short-staffed, if they're pulled into a situation where they need to cite, they have the proper information to be able to do so. Because I know as a cop, when I was in Kansas City, there were a lot of times we were it. And I just don't want the police department to be put in a situation where there are laws on the books and they don't know how to deal with them. So if you can make, as part of the information that you're putting out, conversations with the police department so that they will know, I'm happy with it. I think it's a good program.
I appreciate that. And I've already talked to Commander Bearden about the program, briefed him on it.
Any other questions?
I will, Chair, if I may add,
Yeah.
Mr. Williams, I forgot, did you say you're captain now? Yes. Okay, recent promotion, congratulations. He can further explain, but MNPD can do a roll call training is what it's called, where they advise all of the police officers in the downtown area about this program and let them know what's happening. So that way there can be like communication across, not just to the commanders, but to the boots on the ground. And also we can coordinate, Metro can coordinate with the DEC. So if there are any enforcement called into the DEC can be notified to not contact MNPD first as primary enforcement, but to contact NDOT. So I think that can be easily done. And I appreciate that concern because I think it's valid.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What if my service business is being a lawyer or an accountant? We just have it described as a service.
That would not be a service business under the definitions that we've written here. But again, it's a temporary program. We're going to work on it and see what kind of issues come up. I will bring back any changes to you that we need to make. Maybe because I've worked so much with the downtown businesses, I know what they're doing for service. It's basically, I've worked on this descriptor on what they're doing. If it's not related to those types of things, HVAC, plumbing problems, mechanical problems, electrical problems, tap system problems. There's a person out there, I think I told you, cleans the yeast out of them. Those types of things. It's the capital equipment and building structure that is what they're working on down there. The audio systems.
But there again, if NDOT's enforcing this and they come out there and they see a vehicle that's parked and the placard's in there and it's for the non-intended use, they would be cited.
And maybe lose their permit. Because we can revoke the permit if they're not using it for the intended use.
I mean, we're going to have some bad actors, but hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, but not limited to.
So I guess, could we help clean up that language? Or is there anything that we could do to help ensure that that loophole is plugged up? If somebody were to, if it comes up over this temporary period, for sure, but is there any way we can change the language? Or Commissioner, do you have any suggestions on what would better, limit it to construction services or, services as to building or, I don't know the best terminology there.
Just for clarification, are you talking about the definition that's contained within the document on page 11 of your staff report,
Yes.
because that's actually just the memorandum from NDOT to this commission. What we're really asking you to approve is the following pages.
Okay.
That's labeled Nashville Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure Rules and Regulations. The prior page was a memo just kind of summarizing the program for you. And
So I guess on page 13 under purpose,
yeah,
2 hours while providing services to businesses.
Yes, 13 through
Is
17 is that document, pages 13 through 17. And I actually don't see that definition within the rules and regulations. So you have an option of making a motion to amend it to include a definition of service businesses, or leave it as is without the definition.
Do you feel it is more enforceable without a definition, or if we clarify the specific businesses that we would like this to be used for?
I always think more specificity is helpful. However, because this is a temporary program, I think they could try it as is and see how it goes and report back to you if necessary. That's another option. Or we could try to come up with a definition now while we're sitting here and add it as a definition section.
Mr. Schultz, what's your comfortability level on being able to enforce it as it's written now and then amend and or change as a situation like that comes up? It's a question for you.
My feeling is the way we've written it, we have the ability when these come in to reject them, that they're not the types of businesses I've described in my staff report. However, I do defer to you. You're the commission. You give us direction. I think we can handle it as the permits come in. I know all the stakeholders, most of them downtown, what they've been asking for with this, and we can reject, right? Erica, we can reject the permits because we don't feel they're. But if you want to make a motion to add what I put in there and say it must be these types of businesses or related to it, I'm happy to do that.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Chair. If the discussion is regarding including the definition of services and the application, if I'm understanding the program properly, there really wouldn't be any reason for most businesses to not apply. And it provides a safeguard, if I'm understanding, for a future use because an HVAC has gone out or I need a plumber. It's not going to happen in real time because you're not going to be able to process an application. I mean, ServPro needs to come in tomorrow. If somebody doesn't already have a permit in their hands, they're not going to be able to use the loading zone, correct? So with that in mind, I would think that the commission would feel more comfortable if the service was defined, particularly relative to our earlier comment that it does not pertain to deliveries. And if I may, one more, or I guess comment or somewhat of a question regarding enforcement. If businesses are sharing the loading zone, and all 5 businesses have a permit to use that loading zone, and it's 8 o'clock Monday morning, and 5 trucks pull up, how is the NDOT team going to enforce? They all have got placards. Are they going to start to infringe on, I know you all want them on the ends, but are these vehicles going to start to infringe on the passenger loading areas and start lining up? I mean, I'm sure there are certain times of the day where the demand is peaks. I think you mentioned that at the last meeting, it's often in the morning and they're often showing up at the same time. So just a comment, I think that could potentially become an enforcement nightmare for you all.
And I agree, it's something where Emmy and I are going to have to work closely together. If we see areas where for some reason we're getting a bunch of service vehicles and they're loading up a whole loading zone, obviously that's not good. We want to see them spread out and not take that whole loading zone so that people can still get deliveries in the morning. So we'll have to work on that.
So one other question that I have too is on Section 8 penalties. It talks through how on the first violation, the permittee will receive a formal warning from NDOT, and the related service provider will be subject to citation. On the second violation, by the related service provider. So does that mean that we are saying that it is the same service provider committing a second violation with the one business, that it then becomes a problem? Or is it the second violation to that business's permit, any service provider that's there?
Good question.
Ask for legal help because they helped me write this section. I believe it's the second violation of the program, of the permit process, is when we revoke.
When we were helping with the drafting, I mean, you'll have to explain what you thought the enforcement process was, because to me, this would be any service provider
Yes,
related to the permittee, not the same service provider violates again.
correct. That's
Does
correct.
that make sense?
So it is, I'm a business, I hand out my placard to one provider, they get a ticket. That is my first warning. I hand it out to any other service provider, they also get a ticket. I am now having my permit revoked.
Yes. Is that what you contemplated?
Yes, that's what Emmy and I, when we wanted some pretty direct language in there, so if somebody is clearly not using it properly, we'd have the ability to revoke it.
Do you have any sort of mechanism in place where you'll be notifying other permit holders of a service provider who's improperly doing it? So if I'm giving out my placard to a service provider and other businesses are doing the same thing and it's the same person causing the problems, I would like to know that as a business so that way I don't put myself in a situation to then get a warning and my permit revoked when like that information was already out there, you've already actioned on it.
Can I let them know that information when we find out service companies are not complying with our 2-hour requirement across multiple businesses? I would think that that'd be okay, but I just want to make sure legally I can do that.
I actually don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
I mean, we'll have the data.
May I please confer with my co-counsel for a moment? Thank you.
Yeah, but I think to your point on that, kind of talking through of like the type of thing that should probably happen with this is the permits are posted online somewhere. The service provider should also be getting a permit at some point, and whether that's in the future and that's how the program works, but like having that level of accountability and vision into it.
Any other questions while we wait? Yes, sir.
If this were going to be a long-term program, I would suggest that we not only have a permit for the business, but we also have one for the service provider, and that both of them be placed in the window. And if there's a situation where a service provider is causing problems, they can lose their ability to be able to have a placard. And then if the service provider and the service company don't have placards, then that service provider, the company, the HVAC company, can't come and park in that loading zone for that 2 hours because they forfeited their right to be able to do so.
Yeah, that's similar to how we have our valet permit operator and then valet permit. So that way there's both and you kind of place it on each.
I would support that. recommendation.
I just want us to be cautious and, being in the construction industry, getting service is already a difficult thing to get done. And in a business, in the event you have an emergency where you need service within immediately, I don't want to put too much, or just let us be conscious of putting too much on it to where I want so-and-so to come fix this light, but he doesn't have the right permit, right? He's a great contractor, want to try him in that situation. And then as a contractor, you're then creating this monopoly of, only certain, if you can only work down here if you have this certain
But it's not that they
permit.
wouldn't be able to work, they would just have to find a different place to park their vehicle.
And then if I've got, sure, I'm just looking at it both ways here, in that, if you gotta find a different place to park your vehicle because you don't have a permit, seems a little extra, if you will. Just because they don't have that placard, that didn't allow them to do their job in the same manner as somebody else would. That's all I'd say.
I can add to that, just so you, thinking about the future, what the future holds for curb management, it's license plate readers. And that's what I can't wait to give you the presentation on smart loading, because it's license plate readers. We'll have, permits issued to the delivery companies, permits issued to the service companies. We have all their license plates, and it will, when they come into the swing into the curb, that automated software system will be able to read and go, oh, they're there. They should be there, and it'll count them, and it'll tell us, it'll ping us when they've gone past the 2 hours. That's the future. This is temporary. This is just going to get us through until we get smart loading totally geared up and working.
And again, I wasn't making that a condition of getting this passed. I said, if this were a long-term program that we were going to be doing this way, then I would suggest that. But as it is right now, I'm in favor of it going forward.
I don't think we really know off the top of our heads what, we're tossing around some concerns we might have about the notification aspect of it, but we can get back to the commission about that.
Commissioner?
I mean, we're making a temporary program, adding a lot of work to then also end up doing smart loading at some point in the very near future. I think that's a phase one activity. I would propose another month deferral to maybe clean up some of the language if this is the type of idea of we do want this. That would be, I'll make a motion to defer for 1 month.
What, in consideration of that, what language would you like to see cleaned up? The services definition, right?
Do you want to ask for a second for discussion, or
Well, I haven't opened it up for a motion yet.
so is my motion not valid?
It is not,
Why is it not valid?
because I haven't opened up the floor for a motion yet. Is that?
Are you saying because the discussion was still happening,
Yes.
you're not, okay, I think the chair has the discretion about that.
Did you have another question? So in the event that it is considered to be deferred another month, what language would we be looking for? Because I just want to ensure that if we're deferring a month, NDOT has enough time to get that to them and what that is.
I think the Section 8 penalties and notification to businesses is important. And then also the posted signage for the program.
I think Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. I think we also discussed defining services. And our legal counsel advised that that might be a good idea.
So just for my clarification, definition of services, the posted signage, and I didn't hear the first thing you said, Commissioner Kornitik.
Section 8, the penalties, if we can notice that, what you guys were just discussing.
And the question surrounding that is if there's, say, like a quote, bad actor, end quote, you want to know whether the businesses can notify the surrounding businesses in the permit area about the bad actor prior to giving plaques, so they know who to issue their placards to. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think I would like to know if we as NDOT can post it, so that way the businesses can see it. I don't necessarily want the businesses to have to bear that burden themselves. I would think that we as the program could actually provide, here's the permits, here's the service providers that are providing service, and then if there are bad actors, we can then post that information as well.
Do we have the ability to do that?
I totally misunderstood your question before, so I'm glad you, you just clarified it for me. I thought you were asking if the businesses could notify, if we could notify the businesses.
Which is, would be putting it online.
Yeah, I don't think we can notify notify the public of a violation without a conviction of some sort. Or a guilt, a finding by a court.
Chair, could I ask a question, or is there?
Let's finish this point.
Okay.
So the notification of a non-compliant vendor is what we're looking to make public,
Yes.
and we can't do that, is what I'm hearing?
I don't think that you can do that absent some sort of judicial finding that they are violating the permit. Or else you're just creating a list of bad actors, and I don't think that that's permissible under the law for a couple of reasons, just off the top of my head.
In our way around that in other like transportation licensing, it's only the people operating the permit who are causing the issues. There's no other person that would then cause the issue for them, so it's them as the owner of the permit who are responsible for it, who are doing the work. It's their vehicle. In this case, we're saying that it's somebody else's vehicle that I'm responsible for as the permit owner. Seems difficult.
Chair?
And that's even in our valet, sorry, one more. Like our valet program, it is, the valet company is responsible too, right? For issues while someone is at fault?
Yes, so the valet companies usually have the permits while I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. The valet companies, usually the operators, they have the operator license, and then the businesses or the valet operators might have the permits, which is it could be a separate violation.
What if the valet operator parks a car and we give it a ticket?
I'm sorry, what is the question?
So the valet operator takes a car and parks it in the...
Yeah.
Well,
Does the car get the ticket, or is that dismissible because the valet operator is the one that was in control of it at that time?
It's linked to the owner of the vehicle, but usually the operator is the one who takes the blame and reimbursement for that.
I'm missing the connection here, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to put it together. If it's similar of where that violation would go.
In the event that the service company didn't...
That's my biggest concern on all of this is like, why don't we just give these out to service providers?
Right.
Right.
If this is a service provider place and loading zones are open to anybody providing service within the downtown area, just give the permit to the service providers, put all the onus on them and their vehicles, create it so that way they're the ones coming before us, not the business. That's my biggest concern is that somebody is going to have a business, they're going to see that they can spend 2 hours providing a service to their business, and they're going to use it in different ways that we are not intending it for, where we want it to be a service provider permit program, but we're giving it to the businesses.
So is there a way to do it?
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Diana Alarcon, Director of the Department of Transportation Multimodal Infrastructure, otherwise known as NDOT. As you are all aware, we're actually looking to move forward with our pilot program on the curb management, which is going to involve having cameras that are going to help us with managing the curbs. In the interim, it has been very difficult for our enforcement team to actually be able to enforce some of these smaller service companies that come down. So we have learned of a gentleman who comes down and cleans out taps. He comes down and services about 5-6 of those companies. We've also have learned about some service companies that come down, and they'll come down at 7 o'clock at night and actually fix an air condition that may be broke, and it's on a Friday night, which of course is when it always happens by Murphy's Law. Vice versa for the heat and stuff like that. The bar owners felt it would be easier for them to manage it versus giving it, because the service vehicles are far and few in between. And so we know which service vehicles are down there doing more of delivery of goods, as where this is more of something where they'll come in. The only time they extend to pass a longer time is if something is actually broken and they have to leave and go get the part to replace it, and then they come back for it. So this is just something we want to use in the interim that actually helps our enforcement team be able to enforce. And then basically it will go away because, as you had mentioned, every single person would have to register their own. But the bar owners felt like this would be easier for them to handle. It wouldn't be an expense. These are small mom and pops. They aren't big and they don't have big pockets like some of the other folks that are delivering in the downtown core. Not to say that everybody does, but they have very limited financial resources. So the bar owners and many of the restaurants that use these smaller mom and pops wanted to take on that onus and responsibility so that our enforcement team would be able to use it in the interim until we got the program up and running. So that's the reason why we're coming before you. There is signage already up for loading and unloading that's very visible to everyone. That's how this became a problem, because they were parking and servicing, and they were actually exceeding the time limit, so therefore they were getting ticketing. So it was the merchants and typically the bar owners and restaurants that came to us and say, hey, this is a problem. I need this company down here. They're telling me they're never going to come down and service us again because they can't afford to pay for all of the parking, and they can't afford to pay for these tickets that they're getting. So this was our interim solution until we got into the new program, which we're looking to start the pilot and then hopefully move forward with the overarching curb management. So this is only an interim solution that would actually be more of a guidance for our enforcement team. I know that probably didn't clear everything up because I missed some of the questions, but I'll be glad to help with anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Oh, thank you, and welcome, Director Alarcon. I think also to my fellow commissioners' point regarding the point on penalties, that we had asked for the clarification on the word any, or the inclusion of the word any service provider. Section 8. Because to Commissioner Neal's question earlier about what is the intent here? So I think we wanted to clarify that as well.
Would you like the director to speak to that? Yes. Director, they were asking about Section 8 penalties. Oh, did he just explain it to you?
Yeah,
Okay,
I quickly skimmed through it. So the thought to stop folks from being abusive, which of course we hope that no one will be, but we from time to time have found that people are always trying to find a way to take shortcuts. And so the first event would be that if they actually do have a violation, or they are falsely parking there and not actually working, they would actually receive a notice of violation, which could be even a citation that we pay, which is that $74 ticket. If they actually are caught a second time, we actually will take the permit back and we will not give it to them. Again, this is an interim practice that we will be doing, not long-term, because eventually everyone will have to get registered. This was a way for allowing the smaller business be able to come down and continue to service the bars and the restaurants that have some of those smaller needs. Not necessarily, this placard's not going to be given to your beer delivers or to your wine delivers or to your food delivers or to Coca-Cola or Pepsi or any of those. These are strictly those smaller service folks. And again, this was to help our enforcement be able to identify that these folks were here servicing that bar, and that owner would actually be responsible for that placard. And the other reason, just real quick, they wanted the onus and the responsibility is because they may have to have the beer tap guy down at the same time that maybe that other gentleman there, but the minute that one leaves, they get that back in case there's another need. Because as I said, some of the owners have shared with us that it seems like Murphy Law hits them where everything breaks at one time. So they just wanted to have that flexibility versus it being with the particular restaurant owner. And I mean, the service owner, and mainly that was because they were saying they wouldn't come downtown and service because they couldn't afford it. It was getting too expensive.
Thank you for that explanation. I think that the question was more specific on Section 8B. Section 8B, just to clarify the language. It's just a simple language modification so that it's not this, I don't think the intent here is that it's the same service provider with two violations. It could be two different service providers violating, and thereby the permit would be revoked. And that, we had some earlier discussion about
Right.
that. It wasn't clear to some of our fellow commissioners.
So in this case, it would be, because we are documenting the service providers that are coming down and using that particular permit. And let's say the first time they're using it, they actually are found to be in violation, and they come down maybe another week later and they still have the permit, though they're not supposed to, because that's why the onus is on the bar owner, the restaurant owner, that kind of stuff. And we find they're in violation, then we will actually take that back. If it's with the bar owner and we find it, we will take that back from the bar owner, because again, we don't want anyone to take advantage of it. So I see where it can be a bit confusing, so we can actually clean that up a little bit so it makes more sense. And it also reads a lot better. So I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Hiller, so just give us a chance and we'll clean it up a little bit. I know what she's saying. I get it now. Sorry. I'm kind of reading it quickly on the fly.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Are we, Chair? I'm sorry. Are we able to, quote, clean up some of these other provisions that we've been discussing, whereby we could do that without a need to defer?
Yes, that's an option.
We're absolutely, I think I would defer to you two as to, one, I think the penalties was a big one. Defining the services was another one. Just, it says blanket services.
Got it.
We'll eliminate accountants, lawyers, just, this needs to be specific to Commissioner Cornitick's point, to, construction or emergency building related items.
Where's that?
So,
I would ask if you would approve it with the condition that we bring back cleaned up language for that section, where is it? Hold on one second. I want to be specific to the point in the,
so if we look on page,
okay, so
page
it's,
13,
Right,
under
section
number
one.
1.
so we would come back, if y'all would approve it, allowing us to move forward, we'll come back with the cleanup and also a better definition of what services will actually be eligible for this. That would be section 1 on page 13. And then the other one that we just discussed, which is actually section 8, number B, we would clean up that and bring that back before you, just for clarification and for representation of the changes that we made that we're enforcing.
Yeah, not either go through the entire thing where it says services and clean it up, or create a definition for services.
I think I would like to create a definition for services.
Okay.
Chair, I would recommend that we do that now, just so the policy is clear, because if they approve the policy as is, you'll have to amend it, and then they'll have to go through this whole.
So I
discussion
think-
Again, but we can do it right
I
now.
think
because
sorry.
I'm sorry.
I think the commission was comfortable with the language in the memorandum. If we eliminated services but listed electrical, plumbing, HVAC, you put all that in there.
Yes, sir. I see that.
Chair, if I may,
Yeah.
I think that we did have conversation about specifically mentioning it does not pertain to deliveries.
Yeah, okay. We will add that.
And then the other piece was, one bucket is the current signage and the identifying the time limits around what the current loading and unloading time is, and then additional signage and/or some way for people to know about the 2 hour for this program.
Yes, so we actually have it on I believe we're going to establish that on the permit. So when the team goes through, they'll do an electronic chalking and they'll have 2 hours from that time based on it. So that's how we're going to be handling it. It's not additional signage that'll be up, but it'll actually be on the permit itself. For the clarification. At some point, just to share with the commission, we're going to be changing all the signage downtown. As we roll into the new curb management program, new signage is actually going to be going out, especially in the pilot area. But as we continue to expand the pilot area, which is what we hope to do as we continue to work through all of the ins and outs of this, because this is brand new. And I will tell you, we're actually the first in the country to really actually implement a program like this. There is programs that people call curb management, but not to the extent in which we're doing. And so it's a pretty exciting time, but it's also a little bit of a scary time because we wanted to build in a little bit of flexibility so we could fix it as we go and be able to be really on top of this to build in that confidence with the community and as well as with the delivery and service companies as well. So it's not an easy process for us to get through, but we do feel like this is going to be very instrumental in helping us to be able to better define the use of the curb and also to help us with better management of the curb because we're looking to do a lot of shared spaces, shared curb space. And that's kind of very new in our world of curb management.
Really appreciate that perspective and that understanding. If you could, we just ask that you reevaluate the current signage and ensure that
Yes, sir.
the time limits for loading zones, ride share, what have you, are better understood until we get to that fluid point of consistent.
I agree with you, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? Any other items that we feel need to be added into this for a vote today? Do we have a motion? Yes.
I make a motion that we approve 7.2 for the downtown temporary service business permits for loading and unloading zones as requested by NDOT.
We have a second? It's been first and second. Any questions or comments on the motion? Yes, sir.
So we're not adding the service definition?
Oh, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that.
We mentioned it, yeah.
With the conditions that have been discussed. Did that satisfy, Erica, your suggestion that we work that terminology out here now?
Yes, I think so. Let me just make sure I understand the modification so it's clear for the record. It's going to be the DSTP service permit as requested by NDOT with adding the definition contained in the staff memo of service businesses, adding a sentence that the service business permit does not apply to delivery companies, and changing section 8B, changing if a second violation occurs by the related service provider to if a second violation occurs by any related service provider. Then those are the three changes you requested, correct?
And that the timeline of it would be on the permit, and it would be, yes.
So we can add a provision about that as well.
And the signage? Yes.
Yes. Well, the signage is on the permit, when they hand it out, it'll say that this permit is for 2 hours or whatever.
At some point, not at the next meeting, but at some point in the very near future, we actually will be bringing back the signage to y'all so that you'll get a preview of that and be aware of what we're doing. It may even be at the next meeting. I'm not gonna commit today, but we're pretty much close and ready. We just need to fine tune a few things. But we do want to bring that back to you just so you're aware of what this signage for the curb management is gonna look like and what it won't. And mainly, as we move forward with the program, as I said, we'll roll out that signage and take the old signage down. But I'll definitely take a look to make sure that some of the current signage actually tells the story better for those people that need to use it. So we'll take a look at that as well. But we do want to share what the new signage for the program is going to look like. So that will be forthcoming in either the next meeting or the meeting following that.
Great. Any other questions on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is passed. Thank you. Item 7.2, approval for, I'm sorry, item 7.3, that was 7.2. Item 7.3, authorization for reconfigured loading zones on 9th Avenue North between Commerce Street and Church Street, requested by NDOT. Mr. Schultz.
As you can see above, Brent Schultz, Connect Downtown Coordinator. Maybe you can stay on that. Well, it's on there. Let me move ahead. As you know, at the last meeting, what happened? As you know, at the last meeting, we brought to you a new sign to go in on 9th Avenue between Commerce and Church Street. One of the first things I wanted to do before this goes forward is just to show you the Connect Downtown, the multimodal plan for Connect Downtown goes right by the site, and I'll show you in pictures so you can see it. You can see that orange color there. That is our transit corridor that is going all the way around. It's an inner loop inside the interstate loop, which is going to move, which it has a dedicated, as you know, bus lane. It has queue jumps. It's going to be super fast, super efficient. It has more buses in it. So we can't rely on just our network of streets downtown. We need to move people other ways. This is going to do that. And let me go to the next picture. It won't go. So I was going to go over that just so to remind everybody, the Connect Downtown multimodal plan, it built off of Vision Zero, the walk and bike plan, the We Go in Motion and Better Bus plan. And it's making, if you look at it, it's a spoke system. It's making regional connections to the systems that we already have out there. You can see all the bus routes that come into it. And then when we built Sobro and we built the East Bank Mobility Center and we've got the We Go Central, we've got a great system to move people. So I just wanted to show you this picture from the standpoint of on 9th Avenue there, we need, when the Rosa Parks gets reconfigured and we put a transit corridor on that thing, there's going to be no way for loading out front. There's now going to be no way for valet out front. We're going to need a place to load those parcels between 9th and Rosa Parks Boulevard and from Commerce up to Church Street. So the only thing I'm asking for is approval from Traffic and Parking Commission to move that loading zone to the west side. And I think, not sure I had, can you bring up that picture there? You can see where the loading zone was and where we want to move it to. So it would be loading 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then it goes to passenger or rideshare drop-off 4 p.m., 4 a.m., which would be really great for the Pinnacle Theater that's right there. Also, it'll be really great because we'll have a loading zone for all those parcels that are over to the east that are from Rosa to 9th. But I just wanted to show you that transit corridor because it's just running right there on Rosa to the east. And that's why we need this loading zone in that area. I'm here available to answer any questions on it. I don't know if I missed anything. Did I miss anything, Andrew, on it? And we'd like your approval of that loading zone to put the signage in.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Commissioners, questions?
I think the reason why we deferred it was to get kind of a better understanding of loading in that area. And so one of the main pieces of that would be in terms of, you talked about the Pinnacle, but our understanding was loading is underneath the Pinnacle. For the Rosa Parks, now we're putting the loading zone on the opposite side of the businesses, so you're asking people who are loading to then cross the street that's there.
Just so you know, the Pinnacle, I called Metro Planning, the Pinnacle's loading comes off of 10th Street. That's where their loading comes in, according to Eric Hammer.
If I may, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you very much. Again, Diana Alarcon, Director. It was actually, as y'all are aware, as we've been sharing through the Connect Downtown initiative, it's been a challenge for us. And one of the things that came out of Connect Downtown was we do not have enough loading and unloading. We do require from now on for any development that comes into the downtown area for them to build their loading and unloading on site and not to use the right of way. However, we do have some aged buildings and historical buildings in the downtown core that do not have that. So they do use the city's right of way for their loading and unloading. But in Connect Downtown, part of that loading and unloading was also flexing that space in the evening for rideshare. So when we were looking at this and had the opportunity, we looked at moving the loading zone across the street because it's easier during the day for the loading to manage crossing the street. But at night, when it would be used for ride sharing and for pickup and drop off, I was worried and concerned about a drunk trying to cross the street and a car coming by and not paying attention. So the switch was made for that reason, that it gave more protection to the person that would be using a rideshare program or a taxi versus the loading and unloading. Because they're in there during the day, they're very big, there you see them, you do not miss them, and they can actually move a little bit more across the street than someone at night who may not really have their bearings about them. And if y'all have ever been on downtown and on Broadway, it's sort of the same dynamic. So we just wanted to look for a little bit of extra protection for that vulnerable user of the pedestrian in the evening. So that's why we moved it over on the west side, was actually to give the priority for rideshare, which would be the flex space in the evening.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, Director. I do just have a question. Mr. Schultz, I hear you say that the unloading and loading passengers for Pinnacle is not in front of the Pinnacle, it's on 10th?
Their loading dock, according to Metro Planning, is over on the 10th Avenue side.
Right, so so they don't have a designated passenger for an entertainment venue?
No, they actually do have a passenger, but over on 10th is for the deliveries. So just understand that loading dock is for their deliveries. So any deliveries coming in for the use of the Pinnacle in the yard is actually coming in off of 10th. But they have multiple spaces throughout where they have private roads they have their own private roads, right. Like up above. That's where they have their Uber and Lyft drop off. But as we all know, human beings, not a lot of times you may come in one way and go out another. Again, we were thinking if they are going to be exiting the quickest way out, we wanted to make sure that we were giving that pedestrian who may be a little under the influence and not so much aware of their bearings, a better opportunity of picking up the Uber and Lyft from the west side than trying to cross over to the east side.
So the intent in this move is really rooted in accommodating the Pinnacle and the Nashville Yards project?
No, it was not. It was in accommodating people that would be using the area and not wanting them. And Pinnacle and the Yards is something that attracts people down to the area, but there's other things as well. And it would just be safer for them not to be crossing the street under the influence, so that's why we did it. So again, just keeping in mind as part of Connect Downtown, our unloading zones during the day, and this is going to be part of the pilot, from 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. are unloading and delivery zones. In the evening, between 4 p.m. and 4 a.m., they are turning into rideshare spots. And the idea is, again, to have better control of the traffic so we can actually reduce the congestion. Same thought here. We are staying with trying to use the curb more flexible than what we have, where it's not sitting all day and all evening as an unloading and loading zone. It is designed to support the buildings over on the east side of the street, They were comfortable with us doing that, but we did think about at night, the ride sharing and who would be using it, which is typically in what we want. We do not want people drinking and driving. So we were just thinking, since a majority of them are going to be coming more from the left than from the right, we wanted to make sure that we were accommodating them in the safest way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner?
So you might have asked it, but I do want to just clarify. So curb loading zones, we're not supposed to designate or sign any curb loading zone upon special request of any person unless such person makes application therefore in a writing on form supplied by the commission. So this is not a special requested loading zone.
We are requesting that we move it from the east side to the west side. That's the only difference here.
NDOT is requesting that.
Yes.
No specific person requested this
Correct.
loading zone.
Yes, we are requesting to move it from the east side to the west side of the street.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to point out the old loading zone that you see indicated on the screen there. That was the loading zone that was established there for Walter Nipper's Nashville Sporting Goods back in the 70s. And that business has been shuttered for quite some time. The building itself is one of the endangered historical buildings. I don't anticipate a whole lot of changes to that historical building, but we recognize the need to have the capability of loading and unloading for all those buildings there along 9th Avenue. And the best place to put this, to have a flexible curb space to load not only freight but also passengers, happens to be on the west side. So that's what we're asking today, is to remove the old loading zone and replace it on the left side and have that dual purpose for loading passengers and freight.
Chair.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
thank you, Mr. Smith. And actually, we had brought up at the last meeting, Director, that I believe that building or one of the buildings on the east side of the street is a condominium or residential,
It's Westview.
where the current loading zone is. And we had actually brought up the same issue. By moving it, would not residents or guests of residents that live in that building be forced to cross into traffic?
So there is 2 spaces, and talking with the residents, we did maintain 2 spaces for them on the east side, excuse me.
Okay.
So that they would have that, and then we had parking for them before, and then we had unloading zones on the east side. What we're requesting now is to shift it from the east side over to the west side. So because we want to flex the curb is what we want to do, so it's not staying unloading all the time. Again, we can use it for rideshare taxi services in the evening. And given that a majority of the people are coming from the west side and not the east side at that time, when we're flexing it, we wanted to try to keep them as safe as possible for the use of that flex curb.
And we had that safety in mind too, which
Yep.
is why we asked. So to clarify, the 2 spaces will be used for passenger loading and unloading?
Correct.
That are staying on the east side?
Yes, 2-hour parking.
Oh, parking.
Yeah, up there where it says 33 feet, that's what it is.
Right.
So just to clarify, where it says 33 feet, that's going to be a 2-hour parking limit.
Correct.
That's correct. That 2-hour
Existing.
parking was already approved years ago by the commission. It's in the traffic schedule.
Yeah. And as
And
we
it's still
discussed,
2-hour parking.
as
so
we
it's
discussed at the
unchanged.
last meeting, we're going to have a 2-hour free parking next to a large-scale music venue instead of having it be passenger loading or something else.
We'll definitely be watching it, I will tell you that much, because as we're coming in with the initiative of Choose How You Move, as was shared by Mr. Schultz earlier, all of the parking and the valet and everything that we have on Rosa Parks and on 8th Avenue is actually going to go away. And we are looking to use that as a transit-only lane that will also support the bicycle network as well. And then basically, whatever loading and unloading, that they're using, because they do use both sides. The kitchen is in the back for one of the restaurants that is there. I forget the name of it, but which one is the Standard? Thank you, the Standard. They actually use that unloading zone pretty much on a daily basis for their establishment, and then there's another one as well. We do know that a developer is working on purchasing some of the property and looking at redeveloping it. So there's conversations happening with this, but as I said, some of these are actually flagged historical. So in the past, the unloading, loading was actually done through the right-of-way. It was not done on property, but if they're going to do a tear down and rebuild, we require them to provide that unloading and loading and passenger drop-off and pickup. All of that stuff, we require it to happen on property, but we also know that people do walk outside the perimeter, so we try to create the safest space as possible if someone chooses to walk off a property. And we see that all the time, and especially in the downtown entertainment districts today.
And approximately how many units are in the residential high-rise that will be crossing into traffic?
I don't have that information. I do know that the 2-hour parking that's on the east side is something that was approved by this commission in 2009.
But we can definitely, I mean, we work with them, and if we hear complaints, we'll definitely look at creating, I mean, less time, but that was something that they actually also asked us to keep for them. It's never really been an issue. It might become an issue because Pinnacle opened, but there's never been an issue in the past, and they wanted to continue with that time. So we respected that and left it at that time.
Any other questions?
Did we get clarification? I mean, this has already been restriped like this. Was that, since it's NDOT's decision, was that NDOT money that paid to do that?
Yes, it was paid from us.
And one other clarification, you said that Rosa Parks is going to be part of the bike network?
Yes, Rosa Park, and it's part of Connect Downtown. I don't know if you can go back and put the other slide up that shows the transit line.
That's part of the transit line.
Yeah, but it's also meant to be shared with mobility. So that would be transit and bicycle only, and nobody else would be able to use that specific lane is how it's actually designed, so that we actually have that as a dedicated lane for both transit and for our bicycle community. So it'll take them starting at the James Robertson Bridge. It'll bring, well, actually at the East Bank when it all gets built and developed out, which it's not yet, but it would start at the East Bank side. It would come across the James Robertson Bridge, up and around the Capitol, come down in Rosa Park, then connect with 8th, and then down. So it then, and you can see the additional mobility lanes that will be tying in with it as well. So as we work through each part of these elements of Connect Downtown, we're adding all of this to it so that we can continue to build out our mobility lanes as part of the network system too.
Yeah, I mean, that's, sounds like great news. I just maybe had missed that in Connect Downtown, that the transit priority would also include mobility lanes.
And yes, it was meant to, so that we can actually have you on the main corridor. So we are going to be allowing bicycles to be in the transit only lane, and that will be it, buses and bikes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
the Westview has, I looked it up on the internet, and it's got 10 units in it, 10 condos, it says.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I would reiterate that, those 2 spots that are there, if there's only 10 units and they have off-street parking, it would be a good idea to bring that back in the near future as some sort of flexible space.
Thank you. We'll definitely keep our eye on it.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a second.
Second.
It's been first and second. Any questions on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? It is passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to item 7.1. Authorization for new pedestrian hybrid beacon at 2400 Clarksville Pike. Requested by NDOT. Mr. Haggerty, you have the floor.
Hey, thank you. Derek Haggerty, Nashville Department of Transportation. Was told there was questions about the location of this pedestrian hybrid beacon at the last meeting. So up on the screen there, you're able to see the exact location.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Just help clear up. Well, you weren't here, were you?
I am
very well clarified now.
Any questions, Commissioner?
No, thank you, Chair.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a second.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is passed. Thank you. New business, item 8.0, October meeting date. The commission wishes to reschedule the October TNP meeting to avoid conflict with Metro's fall break. Then the commission should vote on one of the following alternatives. Legal, how do we vote on this? We just take a poll or a show of hands?
Chair, may I ask, should we do a straw poll maybe to see if this date is a conflict for the commissioners? The current date that we have.
Unfortunately, it's a conflict for your attorneys.
Oh,
We both have children who are the same age, and they both have fall break at this time. And we have also experienced with our other commissions and boards that fall break sneaks up on people, and then we end up not having quorums, and then people aren't able to plan. And so it's always a good idea, I think, to just like get ahead of these things so that everybody's calendars are set and firm, and we all know when things are going to happen. So, yes, that is why.
So these are our 3 dates. Should we just we can have a general discussion, I guess, which dates?
Yeah, you can have a general discussion about if there are certain dates that don't work for anybody, and then you could take those off the table.
Commissioner Holler, is there a specific date that does or doesn't work for you?
thank you, Chair. I'm good for all 3. I might just suggest, since the October 6th date has a hard stop at 4, and it is 4:07 now, and our last meeting was 3 hours, we may want to afford more time if it would be needed. I mean, a date that might have more time if it may be needed.
What dates are you open, Commissioner Cornington?
You have discretion to set whatever day and time, and I'm going to give you that discretion.
I love that. Yeah.
I'm not available on Tuesdays.
Okay, so,
I'm not available on Tuesday.
okay,
I can make any of the days work.
okay. You don't get a say, huh?
NDOT is at your disposal at any time.
Man.
It sounds like maybe Monday, October the 20th is the
Yeah.
preference for Commissioner Holler.
I'm totally flexible, whatever the rest of the group prefers.
Okay, do we have a motion to change October's meeting date to Monday, October 20th, 2025 at 2:30 with a hard stop at 5 p.m.? Second?
Second.
Been first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I did have, is the question, is it here in this building or the East Precinct?
It will be in this building. These are the dates that this room is available for
Okay.
the commission. We just need to reserve it while we can.
Great. Any opposed? Okay, we will move the October date or the meeting date in October for Monday, October 20th at 2:30. 9.2, the commission meeting location change for July and August to the East Precinct. We need to vote on this? Okay.
No,
just
sir,
a
we're
notification.
just reminding you this, and we'll remind you again in June.
Because I will definitely come here. Done that. Okay,
Make a motion to adjourn?
so, yep.
I just wanted to bring up something for the commission to consider. This past weekend, and it's happened a number of times, but I saw it very clearly this past weekend. This past weekend on 4th Street between Demumbrian and 1 Symphony Place, there is I believe it's the Hilton's parking lot that lets out onto 4th Street. At night, on a Saturday night when Broadway gets shut down, it almost brings traffic to a complete and total stop unless there's someone there to direct traffic. because the cars that are trying to come out from the Hilton's parking lot onto 4th Street, they can forget about going towards Broadway because it's already blocked off. But just getting out onto 4th Street is a problem. If there are vehicles that are on 4th Street trying to turn into that parking lot, they're blocked by the vehicles that are already taking up that space. So I don't know what would be the proper avenue or what consideration needs to be made, but that is a problem that I'm seeing. The Hilton's parking lot. They're on 4th Street.
I think that's a Metro, underneath the Walk of Fame Park.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a Metro garage. No? Oh, no, okay. Oh, okay.
We do have in Connect Downtown a future potential one-way on 4th, which would send.
To talk about all the things that are happening downtown, and I will tell you, this last weekend, we had major events at every single venue, in addition to Steeplechase and Savannah Bananas at the Titans. So we're working on flush plans and things to help get the flow of people out of downtown. But I have made a note, and we'll take it to that committee or that meeting next week.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
I'll renew my motion to adjourn.
It's approved, pass, second, third, amen. Thank you.
Amen.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.